She says thank you.
It's the only news truck that I've seen.
Influenza. Start recording.
I wonder what the Ukraine flags are saying.
Well, let's take a walk up there and I'll take a picture of you and her. Agree? You want to do it? So people of Russia, thank you.
Sure.
Good afternoon, ladies. Hello.
Hello. We're all going to love you. We have ribbons if you want them.
I got it.
We got them. Oh, you got them. Oh, now
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, you?
Magnificent.
Oh, good. They told us we could hold one up.
Sit for time to decide which one?
Yeah. They're all
Have
really
fun.
good.
Hello everybody, please move up and let's see if we can form a giant circle.
Defense of the job.
So welcome everybody. How many Philadelphians do we have? Philadelphia. Hey! Suburbs. Suburbs. New Jersey. Are there any Ukrainians here? Wonderful. We are furious at Vladimir Putin for starting an illegal, unprovoked invasion. We're here today because we stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine. We're horrified at the devastation that is being wrought to the beautiful country and its people. We're horrified to see so many innocent women, children, and people in general being killed. We're heartbroken to see millions of Ukrainian invasion will turn into a nuclear war, bringing the end of civilization as we know it.
Hi, Dr. Ken.
We're here because we risk their lives, and many of them may not survive. Imagine if we had to live under that threat. Really awful. And we're here today because we call for diplomacy, we call for negotiation, not escalation. We care about a world of peace. Now is the time to go. Coming today, 12:20 to 1 in front of Putin's office, second and normal. They're a terrific group of So we have a group of inspiring and informative.
Good afternoon.
Seven, a clear agreement that will stress the neutral status of Ukraine. In particular, it should be understood that Ukraine will not seek a new NATO membership. Instead, the establishment of treaty-based international security assurance to neutral Ukraine will be very important. 8. An inclusive program of peaceful economic rehabilitation of Ukraine. Once the first step
These ruthlessly dominated others through violence, meaning their partners and children, their homes, people in their neighborhoods, their own citizens, or entire countries. Thus we have President Putin, who while Siberia burned this summer due to climate change, made his plans to come to Ukraine. He has used the nuclear threat to keep Western powers at bay and the value of Russian oil to blunt economic sanctions, while sanctions and diplomacy are attempting to keep tyranny in check. As a physician, I help people modify their behaviors toward better health. 35 years ago, through educating the public on the medical consequences of nuclear war, in Philadelphia, in Trees, in Bridgeton, New Jersey. Thanks, Tom. Oh, you're holding I and my American and Soviet colleagues helped millions change the minds of President Reagan and Premier Gorbachev, resulting in treaties between the two countries that reduced our combined arsenal from 50,000 nuclear weapons to 4,000. Of course, this
You are correct. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. Philadelphia alone is the home of about 12% of his constituents. When we started showing up at his office, he claimed that we would speak out and fulfill his own oath of office. Time and again, he has failed to show moral courage, failed to take a stand, and failed to protect our democracy. In February 2020, I want you to remember that he was one of 52 Republican senators who voted to acquit Trump over his extortion of Ukrainian President Zelensky, withholding congressionally authorized military aid unless he manufactured political dirt to help Trump get reelected. Toomey said, and I quote, he saw no quid pro quo. He did drop that talking point after it became obvious it wasn't sustainable. He said it was inappropriate. He said that Trump showed poor judgment. And he asked, where's the crime? Economist David Rothschild said on Twitter, whatever those 52 senators say now about how tough they are on Putin, criticizing Biden for not being tough enough, is insulting and useless BS unless they acknowledge and apologize for their vote to allow Trump to blackmail Zelensky for their support of authoritarianism over democracy. So when Senator Toomey says that he stands with Ukraine, be sure to remember that. As Adam Schiff had said, if you vote to acquit, your name will be tied to Trump's with a cord of steel for all of history. Toomey witnessed Trump's Putin worship. He saw Trump's venal corruption. He had the power to convict Trump, remove him from office, and prevent him from ever holding office again. And instead, he exonerated him. And then he voted to re-elect him. And it took a violent insurrection where people died and his own life was put in danger for him to actually vote to convict. But most of the other Republicans couldn't even do that. It's a pretty low bar. He enabled Trump and he emboldened Putin. There's a quote from Walter Schaub, who was the former director of the U.S. Office of Government Ethics on the Trump era that has really stayed with me. This is what he said. When this is over, when the lights are turned back on, it will become clear that there were only two kinds of people, those who stood against Trump's corruption, cruelty, and degradation of American values, and those who enabled him. So remember this. Jimmy voted to acquit Trump over Ukraine. He betrayed America, and he betrayed Ukraine. On a personal note, my family has roots in Odessa, Ukraine. My grandparents fled there 100 years ago and made it to America in the early 1920s. They fled the virulent Jew hatred, state-sanctioned violence, the upheaval of war and revolution. They arrived here just before America's xenophobia shut down immigration from Eastern Europe. My grandmother left behind her parents and her sisters. We don't know what became of them because they vanished during World War II. So I'll finish by quoting first century sage, Rabbi Hillel. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm quoting a man named Alexei Kovalev, a prize-winning journalist in Moscow, who takes his freedom into his hands by calling this an invasion. In Russia today, believe it or not, it is illegal to use the word invasion in connection with this invasion. Okay? And you can get up to 15 years. This is a brand new law. You can receive a 15-year prison sentence simply for using the word invasion in a way the authorities do not agree with you. Okay. So I'm quoting Kovalev, though, more in sorrow than in anger. This war will cause vast suffering, not just in Ukraine and even Russia, but in Europe and really the world. We have to really understand that fact. Now we're here today, and I really appreciate how well Gene and all the organizers have gotten you to join us here today. We're here today in solidarity with the people of Ukraine, but also with all people who value peace, freedom, and human dignity. So, thank you. So what can we do? What can you do? First thing we can do is call Congress. It's very simple. You go, you Google Capitol Switchboard and get the number, and they'll connect you to your senator's office. You can do this in a couple of minutes. Right, and say your state if you don't know who you're calling, whether it's your representative or whoever, okay? Of course, Dwight Evans is a great congressman who supports much of what we do, so he doesn't really need a phone call, but maybe he does in this case. All right, so call Dwight, call Casey, even call Toomey, just so they all know how we feel, okay? And tell them, no more war in Ukraine, negotiate, don't escalate, okay? That is my message to them, and I hope it's your message as well. The second thing we can do, the second thing is you can demand the U.S. government redouble, and I do mean double, the money that's appropriated for humanitarian assistance. We are escalating the amount of money for, military drones, for anti-aircraft guns. We need to escalate the amount of money for humanitarian assistance in Ukraine for the Ukrainians, but also in the countries around Ukraine, which are mostly poor countries like Moldova, Romania, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. They need help because they are welcoming already 1.3 million Ukrainians, mainly women and children, because most of the men have stayed home to fight the Russian invasion. Okay. So we need to demand that Congress appropriate enough money to take care of those refugees and help those countries to help them. Okay? Finally, we can keep up the struggle. We can volunteer. We can donate to places like UNICEF, which are providing food, clothing, and shelter to those refugees. You can also go to Doctors Without Borders. There's many organizations that are helping. And right here in Philadelphia, there's a great organization that I know personally. I know some of their actually I know their founder, Ann O'Callaghan, and several on their staff who do great work with refugees right here in Philadelphia. Not only Ukrainian refugees, but refugees from civil wars and climate crisis around the world. So that's another great organization. And there's many more that you can easily find. So, last but not least, I would say, the last thing you can do is join one of our organizations that sponsored this rally, whether it's the Granny's Peace Brigade in Philadelphia, or Coalition for Peace Action, which is my organization. You can go to peacecoalition.org. Brandywine Peace Community. There's many co-sponsors. I'm leaving some out. I know Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and so on. There's a lot we can do. So the last thing I'll just say is, what are we going to tell Congress? We want an end to the war, no war in Ukraine. Thank you very much.
This is Melina Santoya.
Good afternoon, friends. It's really, really good to see each and every one of you who, not knowing whether it was going to rain or storm, but here we are together. Here we are for the people of Ukraine and to stop all wars. I'd like to make a quote, first of all, from Martin Luther King. He said, "Those of us who love peace must organize as effectively as the war hawks. As they spread the propaganda of war, we must spread the propaganda of peace." We can do that. Thank you. As Putin's invasion into Ukraine continues to escalate and claim lives, more than 17,000 Russian artists and art professionals have signed an open letter sounding the message, "No to war."
No to war.
No more war! No more war! No more war! No more war! No more war!
The war in Ukraine is a terrible tragedy for both Ukrainians and Russians, reads that letter, which was published in Russian. It brings great loss of human life, threatens our economy and security, and will lead our country to complete international isolation. It is completely pointless. Any enforcement of peace through violence is absurd. Scientists in Russia have also spoken out and publicly declared the war, along with other 200 journalists as well. It is Brandywine's Peace Organization which says, "The bell of peace also intones a
a steadfast commitment to peacemaking. And with it, the nonviolent example of Russians and Ukrainians who together continue to resist war in an abiding hope for peace and occupation, which was destruction as well. It was wrong in Iraq. Occupation is wrong in Palestine. And it is wrong in the Ukraine. The Plowshares 7, who went to prison for their commitment to peace, declared, the only winners in any war today, U.S.-based weapons, contractor corporations like Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, General Electric, and United Technologies, to name just a few, whose profits increase with every cluster bomb and missile launched, every body torn to pieces. For our complicity with all these forces that are literally driving the world insane, we beg the forgiveness of God and neighbor, while affirming our solidarity with both the Russian and Ukrainian peoples. We pledge non-cooperation with any armed faction in this senseless conflict. To all soldiers we say, lay down your weapons.
Lay down your weapons.
Your courage and sacrifice belong at the service of peace for the future of the human race, not to be spent in bloodshed on the altar of the national security state. Now, another quote from Walter Cronkite, who said, war itself is of course a form of madness. It's hardly a civilized pursuit. It's amazing how we spend so much time inventing devices to kill each other and so little time working on how to achieve peace. I can't find it, and so I'm going to say to each of us, each of you and me and all of us here, to our friends and neighbors, that we stand here we are committed to stopping the war. Russian troops out, no NATO expansion. Thank you.
Stop the war.
Today we toll a bell. We toll a bell. We toll a bell. That bell says something. This bell here was taken from behind the Lockheed Martin site. It was the side of a missile. And a dear friend named Richard Withers, who's a monk, fashioned it into a bell. When I asked him, why did you do that, Richard? And he said, well, we've hammered on them in the past, and we've got truly swords into plowshares. And that's what he did. He made it swords into plowshares. All these years, the Brandywine peace community has struggled based on a simple statement. Non-cooperation with evil is as essential as cooperation with good. That's what Gandhi said. That's what we do. And so I'm pleased that after all these years, 30 years at Lockheed Martin, the world's single largest military profiteer, war contractor, nuclear weapons contractor, that this Good Friday, Tom and I and others in the Brandywine Peace community will return to Lockheed Martin in King of Prussia and get arrested as we should have been over these past couple years. And I'd like to say something to fellow religious people of religious commitment. To remember what Dr. King used to say, church is not something we go to, but something that we come from for the sake of justice and for peace. You know, Lockheed Martin, as the single largest war contractor in the world, is that which profits from NATO expansion. NATO expansion, Lockheed Martin exists to expand NATO. And I don't mean just in Europe, but throughout the Middle East, Africa, AFRICOM, Central America, Latin America. That's Lockheed Martin. It's not just another corporation. It is a monster. And what we do with monsters is to tame them. Tame them. I stand here thinking of my close friends of the Atlantic Life community, Phil Berrigan and Daniel Berrigan, and those of us who entered sites, took some hammers to some warhead casings in those sites, and said, each swing of this hammer, we so declare peace. With each swing of this hammer, we declare peace. That's what we're doing here today. I would ask all of you to take the sign that you hold, or pick up a sign on the street. Hold it up high. Hold it up high. Hold it up high. Hold it up high. And on that note, I would share a prayer that Melissa and I wrote for today. The bell of peace tolls a prayer for all the world, all the war dead and dying in Ukraine, for the children, the earth, humanity, and the future. The bell sounds an appeal that America may one day be forgiven for its racist history of war-making, nuclear weaponry, and endless celebration of greed and militarism around the world. Most of all, right now, in this horrible time, the bell tolls for all the victims of Vladimir Putin's vicious invasion and war on Ukraine. The countless refugees, the bombing, the god-awful, insane threats to unleash hell on earth of nuclear weapons. The bell of peace, nonetheless, also intones a steadfast commitment to peacemaking and love. And love. And love. The tolling of the bell on this International Day of Caring and Protest is for us all exemplified in Russians and Ukrainians resisting war, choosing radical hope in the nonviolent struggle for peace and future. That's what resistance is. On behalf of us all, choosing a radical hope. Not a passive hope, a radical hope, a fundamental hope. So we conclude by saying, with love and hope, world without end. Amen.